We are continuing on with our NHL offseason review series. We're still working on teams in the Central Division. Today we look at the drastically changed Chicago Blackhawks with all the moves they've made. Who has gone in, who has gone out, and are they going to be a better team next year? We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're continuing on our NHL offseason review series where we're analyzing all the NHL teams, looking at the moves they've made between trades, free agent signings, who's departed from the team, and trying to determine if we like the moves they've made and if they're going to be a better team next year. So we're kind of looking at what their objectives were going into the offseason, like what was their plan and have they executed those plans accordingly. So let's take a look now at Chicago. Now, I think it's fair to say that their plan going into this offseason is they kind of wanted to retool quickly on the fly. I think Stan Bowman and the Chicago Blackhawks kind of realized that they don't really have, in my opinion, that great of a prospect pool. They do have some younger players that are pretty good, but they're already kind of on their roster. They were already getting some NHL time. There wasn't a whole lot more coming that they could really say we're going to be, any kind of a game changer. They have Kirby Dach, who's young and dynamic. They had Adam Boqvist. They have some younger D2 on top of Boqvist, like Mitchell, for example. And, they have, Baudin's another one. So, they had some good young defensemen, not a ton in the forward group after Dach that was really, looking all that dynamic. So, I think Stan Bowman and the Hawks kind of looked at what they had and said, you know what, we still have some really good pieces here. We're hoping to get Jonathan Toews back. We have Patrick Kane, Alex DeBrincat. We still have some good vets here. Let's maybe try to retool quickly on the fly, and we're going to try to make a run to get back to being more competitive that way rather than continuing to build through the draft and just kind of waiting this out because it's going to take a while. And they just, like I said, the prospects they were building up were good, but they're just not, it's almost like when you're caught in the middle, so to speak. You're getting good picks because you're drafting in the top, 10 to 15 picks, but you're not getting a lot of super high picks. I did luck out a few years ago getting Dach higher in the draft because they had a good lottery win. But after that, like I said, they just haven't picked high enough. So there's not a ton coming. So looking at the trades they've made, they were extremely busy. The Blackhawks might go down as being one of the busiest and most aggressive teams in this NHL offseason. I mean, at the end of the day here, they made some massive trades. They were involved in probably the arguably two of the most significant deals here in the offseason by getting Seth Jones and Marc-Andre Fleury. They get Fleury from Vegas for basically nothing. They sent a prospect back to Vegas who they don't even really want him or have room for him, so he's going to continue to play in the Hawks organization and their minor league affiliate or something like that. Kind of crazy, but to get Marc-Andre Fleury, that's a massive addition. They relied heavily on Kevin Lankinen last year, and he did okay considering his level of experience and capabilities, but that's a massive upgrade in goal to get the Vezina Trophy winner and a guy who's had a tremendous NHL career, likely a sure bet Hall of Famer. That was huge, for the Chicago Blackhawks. They also acquired Seth Jones from the Jackets, who we knew didn't want to sign an extension, and we knew he was likely going somewheres. Goes to the Blackhawks after they acquired his brother, Caleb Jones, from Edmonton as a kind of an extra enticement. And then they signed him to a massive extension at like $9.5 million per year, like on a mega long-term deal. So that they just opened up the Brinks truck and paid Seth Jones after acquiring him. Of course, Adam Boqvist goes the other way. That was a massive trade overall. Like they were just dropping bombs here on the hockey news world. And, of course, the Caleb Jones deal, they move along, long-time Hawks great player Duncan Keith, who's likely a Hall of Famer in his own right, former Norris Trophy winner, won multiple Stanley Cups there. Talk about a changing of the guard here. I mean, that was more of a Duncan Keith personal choice as well to be moved, to be closer for family reasons to his son and stuff. But still, those are some absolutely massive trades that we saw the Blackhawks do here. And it doesn't end there. They also trade the contract of Brent Seabrook, who's likely not going to play again. So he's gone. So Seabrook and Keith, two of their great defensemen, top guys here from their Cup days, gone now officially from the organization. The Seabrook contract goes to Tampa in exchange for Tyler Johnson. So they get a player in Johnson who's looking to kind of reestablish himself after back-to-back cups in Tampa. Then, of course, after all that and the changing a guard on the blue line and paying Seth Jones, they really couldn't afford to pay the asking price of Nikita Zadorov, who was an RFA. So Zadorov gets traded to Calgary for a third-round pick. So, I mean, overall here, you bring in Caleb Jones, you bring in Seth Jones, you bring in Marc-Andre Fleury. Then, of course, going out is Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook, Adam Boqvist. Wow, and a third-round pick. Like, it's kind of crazy when you think about it all. What a crazy offseason it's been. Now, besides the players that we just talked about them acquiring by trade, they also made some free agent signings as well, including defenseman Jake McCabe, who gets a 4-year deal coming over from Buffalo. Missed a lot of time last year due to injury, but it looks like he could be a pretty good second or third pair defenseman in Chicago after what they've done here with all the changes. Of course, they could use another defenseman, so McCabe ends up being their guy. So considering what was out there in the market, not a bad pickup. They also got Jujhar Khaira, who was a unqualified RFA in Edmonton, becomes a UFA, signs in Chicago, can be a good bottom six forward for them, hopefully. And of course, even though it's not a signing or a trade, they're really hoping to get Captain Serious Jonathan Toews back. I mean, he was out all of last season with an undisclosed injury, which is they're kind of determining at this point. It looked like he was kind of what they call a COVID long hauler, that he was just really drug out and had major impact from having COVID and just took a really long time to recover. At least that's what it appears to be. I know he did do an interview and talked about it after he was able to kind of start training again back a while ago. So he is expected to make it to training camp and is likely going to play this year, which would be a huge addition in itself. Kind of like what they call like your own trade at the deadline when you get one of your own guys back without having to give anything up. And that's going to be a big one for Chicago going into next year. Now, besides the guys we talked about being moved out via trade, we also saw them on not qualified, a couple of their own RFAs in Suter, as well as David Kampf. Both those guys end up leaving via free agency, becoming UFAs, so they're both gone from the organization. Of course, as I mentioned, you already got Keith going out, Seabrook going out, Boqvist going out, and of course, they didn't stop there. They also didn't bring back Vinny Hinostroza, who was back in Chicago for his second stint, and of course, Zadorov, as I mentioned as well. So, obviously, a major changing of the guard here on that blue line. But that's, like I said, a pretty active, highly, entertaining offseason for Chicago with all kinds of trades and free agent changes there. So this team is going to look a fair bit different this year. Now, do they still have unfinished business going into the rest of this offseason? And they absolutely do. Although to some degree, when it comes to their on-ice product, at least, not going to be as significant as some teams. But for example, they're looking to, at this point, make a cost-cutting trade because they're basically over the cap now. They need to shed some money. So you're looking at a guy like possibly Dylan Strome getting a new home before training camp starts. That's a real possibility. They just signed Alex Nylander actually earlier today as well. He's back on a one-year deal, which I didn't mention earlier. But Strome's a player that has been rumored to be moved. They don't really see a future with him. So getting him on the move would be good for a cap cost savings right now. Of course, the other big part of the Blackhawks offseason here has been the lawsuit and the allegations of sexual misconduct being taken place here. They have a couple of major lawsuits up against them here from former players, as well as a high school hockey player from Michigan relating to their video coach. I'm sure everybody knows about this story here by now. We have talked about it on the channel before. All kinds of updates coming through here. We know that basically that the players talk to a trusted skills coach. Skills coach goes to management. Management basically refuses, or at least is alleged to refuse, to go to police. And it looks as though at this point, when it comes to GM Stan Bowman, he was there at the time. A lot of other members of the Blackhawks executive team who are now on other teams were part of the organization, and they were being questioned as to whether or not they know anything. I mean, of course, Shovel Dayoff of Winnipeg came from there. Bergevin came from there, because all these things happened like 10 years ago. It was during the Western Conference Final in the playoffs one year when all this went down a long time ago. So it's a big, big deal, and it's kind of taken over a lot of the news around the team here. And it just gives the team and the organization a really, really bad look. There's an investigation ongoing right now. It's really hard to say what will come from it. But it's, if it's anywhere true at all, which it unfortunately appears like it could be. But like I said, I like to make sure that people are considered innocent until proven guilty. I don't like convicting people because of, something that I can't prove. Anyways, but like I said, it looks really bad. And there's a lot of people speaking out. A lot of former players have slowly started picking up their willingness to speak on this, and other members that have used to work with them. So it doesn't look good. And like I said, it's kind of taken over the news cycle when it comes to Chicago this offseason. And it's difficult to say when that unfinished business is going to be kind of wrapped up and what we'll know the outcome of that. I just hope that there's real consequences if they're determined that there was wrongdoing there and that the Hawks did cover up these, real situations that did take place, because those are going to have a major impact on those players the rest of their lives. And if they refuse to go to police and, did all that, then that's extremely bad. And I just don't know what is going to happen, to be honest. There's a lot of, things to be determined here by the courts, but it just gives a real bad look and leaves a bad taste in your mouth about the organization, regardless of the on-ice product, because it's unfortunate. The players, you kind of want to root for people and players on the team. It's just really hard to feel good and cheer for a team that's kind of going through all this stuff right now. But with all that said, will the Hawks be a better team, a worse team, about the same going into next year? Well, to be completely honest with the on-ice product, the way it looks right now, I'd have to say I don't see how they can not be better. The biggest thing is they're going to have way better goaltending, and that makes all the difference in the world. It should win you at least a few more games at the very least. The blue line is bound to be a bit better too. The forward group is a little different, not drastic, but enough that they can get Taves back along with the other additions here that, they should be better. There's no reason why they can't be. I'm not sure that they're going to contend for playoffs or not. That's really hard to say because they're in a really tough division. But I do think that they're going to be a better team, more competitive, and they should at least be in the conversation as we get later into the season for a potential playoff spot. So let me know your thoughts on the Hawks offseason down below in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We will keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.